Hello, I'm Jim Barbush from Legalstown, Pennsylvania. In the woods at the foot of the Blue Mountain, if you can see it back there. I live out here, just over the field there. I want to do a summary for you of what I've been thinking about lately. A summary of a message called Seek First the Kingdom of God and His Righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. And after this summary, you can watch more detailed explanations of each part that I have. There's about 10 small parts, videos that vary anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. But here's the basis of the whole message. What are our priorities, and how do we base them? Over the years, I have heard God first, spouse second, children third, jobs fourth. What's fifth? Neighbors? What's sixth? Finances? Priorities, priorities, priorities. How many priorities do you have? They probably never end. And some of them you probably never get to. But I learned something. In Matthew 6:33, Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well." Now that statement is at the conclusion of, you could say, a speech that He gave that was just excellent. Matthew 6. Matthew 6 is a well-organized speech. And as a Toastmaster, I know what that's about. He starts off with a warning. He says, "Don't express your righteousness before men so it can be seen of men. Your righteousness should be before God." And then he breaks it down. I won't go into all of it, but he says, when you give to the needy, he says, when you forgive, he says, when you pray, and then he says, how you pray. And how you pray is where he teaches the Our Father. He also says, when you fast. And he says, when you forgive, when you pray, when you give, when you fast, do these things in secret, not as expressed before men so that they can see and so that you can get your reward. Because if that's your purpose, you have already received your reward, is what he says. He says you do it in secret, and your Father knows in heaven, and He gives you your reward, which will be maybe a physical thing here on earth, but also an eternal spiritual thing. Something else I learned that really struck me in another passage. Jesus was praying to the Father, and he said to the Father, I'll paraphrase it. He said, "Father, you sent me into the world, but I am not of it." And he said, "My disciples are not of it either." He said, stated as a fact, my disciples are not of this world. And I thought, he didn't say, if my disciples act right, they're not of this world. He didn't say, if my disciples act improperly, they are of the world. He said, as He is not of the world, as He is in the world and not of it, so His disciples are in the world and not of it. It's a fact. Now, given, yes, as sinful people we can be, we may act like we are of the world and look like it. But we need to get a grip on, we are not of this world. We are of another kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. And he says, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. And what you will eat, what you will drink, what you will be wear will be added to you as well. As all the rewards that your Father is going to give you here and now and in heaven. So what's our priorities? I think there's one priority. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. And I also tie that to where Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandments? He said the first is love God with everything you have. All your mind, soul, strength. Love Him with everything you have. And then he said the second is like the first. It's like it. Meaning, maybe it's on the same level. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. So what I get out of that, he says, love God, love neighbor, love self. God, neighbor, self. It's a package. If you're deficient in any one of those three areas, you're deficient in all of it. Of course, we're not perfect. We are deficient. But he says, love God, neighbor, self. That covers your whole life. So what's your priorities in loving God, neighbor, and self? Are there priorities? Do you love God first? Neighbor second? Self last? Or do you love all three? Yes, God is supreme, the ultimate, the all-powerful, the almighty, the creator. Brought us here, put us here, has plans for us here and in the future. In the future life. So based on Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Based on we are in this world but not of it. Based on the two greatest commandments, loving God, neighbor, and self. I think there's one priority. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And that's why he says, seek it first and foremost. And then that leads me to, when we get that down, we need to figure out how we're operating in the world and how we're operating in the kingdom. God is looking for a people that's going to bring the kingdom to the planet in the here and now. His kingdom, the kingdom is within you. We need to be like it. We need to act like it. We need to show that. We need to be God's missionaries, God's servant, in bringing the kingdom into this planet in the here and now. Not later when we're taken off into heaven. So are we pursuing world things? Worldly kingdom things, which Satan's the prince of the air? Or are we seeking his kingdom and his righteousness? Are we willing to give up worldly things to seek his kingdom? So I think there's one priority, and that can change our whole focus on everything we do. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. That's a summary of the whole message. I invite you to take a more detailed look in the videos that follow this. There's also a PowerPoint with 4 parts to it. I invite you to look at that. That goes right along with the message. Print out that PowerPoint if you can. Listen to each message. You don't have to listen to each setting. They're 5 to 10 minutes apiece. So think about it. Pray about it. Adjust your priority, not your priorities. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. We'll catch you at another time. You have a blessed day.